tonight. Brace for a bill hike. Gas and electricity prices soar tomorrow, taking the average cost to more than £200 a month.
You go in and you go, I would like that. No, you better know. It's just getting beyond a joke now. It's really beyond a joke.
The Tories remain under pressure after days of financial turmoil. Also making the headlines after almost a century, McVitie's bake their final biscuit in Glasgow.
Glasgow Clan suspend their chief executive and head coach after the ice hockey team sign an alleged rapist.
And will it be Glasgow calling? Eurovision officials visit the city ahead of a decision on who'll host the contest. I'm Gordon Cree in Edinburgh.
And I'm Emma Cameron in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. We've known for a while it's been coming, but that won't make it any easier. Tomorrow, our gas and electricity bills will rise. Householders are bracing themselves and housing providers are preparing crisis management measures which will kick in when people inevitably fall behind on their payments.
Tonight is your last chance to take a meter reading before the energy price cap rises. From tomorrow, the average household will be paying more than £200 a month on gas and electricity. Caroline Lewis reports.
People are worried about being able to eat.
Anger on the streets of Glasgow this morning as protesters accuse Scottish Power of putting profits over people.
We're all affected by this. The energy system needs an absolute complete overhaul. What the government is doing is obscene. The profits these companies are making is obscene.
Liz is one of many people concerned about their bills this winter. She now only heats one room in her house and is doing all she can to keep costs down.
Fill the kettle and put the tea cosy over it and it keeps that kettle warm. And I can still fill my cup another few times. And then they flasks of water does about 1 o'clock till the cheap rate comes on again, and then I'll make my supper for the night. Plus I turn the ring off with when the potatoes are really ready and the heat in the ring, if you've got an electric cook me top, that is, cooks the rest of it.
She no longer uses her oven and has invested in more blankets. But with bills going up again tomorrow, she's running out of things she can do.
Your mind's on keep constantly going, oh my God, what's that? You can't do it. Nobody can do it.
She's already received fuel vouchers from her housing provider, who's readying a multi-million-pound crisis fund to help tenants pay their bills.
We know that it's not just financial hardship that people are going to experience, that there's going to be a real impact on people's physical well-being, their mental well-being. Contact us if you're concerned and we will support you in every way that we can.
And concerns over rising bills is seeing people turn to alternative methods to heat their homes.
A lot of our customers are quite elderly, so they're quite worried about the prices going up again. People are buying as much as they can afford. We're finding that people are just stockpiling for the first time in years. 18
months ago, the average energy bill was around £87 a month. But from tomorrow, a typical household can expect to pay more than £200. But the government is offering some support. Every household will automatically get £400 to help with their bills. It will be received in instalments spread over the next 6 months, and it won't have to be paid back. Low-income households will get an additional £150, while pensioners will get an extra discount between £100 and £300. But is it enough to stop people going under?
Despite the financial support that has been provided by the UK government, the net effect of the increase in costs on the 1st of October and all of those financial supports will mean that 1 in 3 households in Scotland will be in fuel poverty. 1 in 4 households in Scotland will be in extreme fuel poverty, really desperately struggling to pay their energy costs. It's desperate times.
The UK government has said prices won't rise again for another 2 years. Little comfort to those already struggling to pay the bills.
Well, as mentioned, up and down the country, people are going to be really worried about paying those bills. And Caroline, there's still confusion about how much people are actually going to have to pay.
Oh yes, so let's make it really, really clear. The cap is on the price per unit of energy, not your bills. So same as ever, the more you use, the more you pay. So while the average household's set to pay around $2,500 a year, there is absolutely no guarantee that people won't end up paying more than that.
So what can people do right now?
Most importantly, take a meter reading today, send it off to your energy company, because that means when that price hike comes in tomorrow, you will only be paying for the energy you use at that higher rate.
OK, Caroline, many thanks for that.
Now, the SNP is calling for the Chancellor to go or be sacked after days of turmoil in the markets. Today, Kwasi Kwarteng and the Prime Minister met the independent watchdog, the Office for Budget Responsibility, saying they would work closely ahead of a further announcement from the Chancellor in November. Stephen Brown has more.
Today, a team from the Office for Budget Responsibility headed to see the Chancellor and Prime Minister after a tough week for the economy. Last week's statement from the Chancellor came without any forecast from the independent financial watchdog, but the government say it had to act quickly to protect people from rising energy bills.
There's always a balance and a tension between having a plan quickly, but also having a plan that wraps in all of the latest available information and then as a result endures.
However, the OBR confirmed to the SNP's Westminster leader that it had sent a draft forecast to the Chancellor on his first day in office. The watchdog now say they'll provide an updated forecast to the Chancellor next week, but it won't be published until November at the next statement from Kwasi Kwarteng.
The fact that the government is not learning any lessons, the fact that the government doesn't recognise that the financial markets work in real time, it really just does indicate that this Chancellor, this government are taking us all for fools. And I have to say that on the basis of where we are today, I see no option that the Prime Minister has to sack the Chancellor. He simply has to go.
Labour say the budget should be reversed.
The key thing is not what spending should come to justify the Conservative budget. The loss of confidence and the damage that has caused should be fixed by recalling Parliament and reversing that budget. That's a far better starting point.
This weekend we'll see the start of the Conservative Party conference, but the latest YouGov poll puts Labour 33 points ahead of them. Liz Truss will be hoping she can start reassuring the markets, backbenchers and many voters soon. Stephen Brown, STV News.
The sister of Rini McRae has spoken of the decades of anguish she's endured, waiting for her killer to finally be convicted. Bill McDowell was sentenced to life with a minimum of 30 years yesterday for what Lord Armstrong described as the execution of the mother and son in November 1976.
It followed a 46-year fight for justice. In the wake of the verdict, Maura Govan says the passing of time has not eased the pain of never knowing what happened to the mother and son. She spoke to Nicola McCallie.
I think hate's a strong word, but I think I can put hate to him, I hate him. But we've got justice in the end, and I'm sure he thought he was going to get away with it.
It's been 46 years, but for the sister of Rini McRae, her loss is still incredibly raw.
It certainly got harder as I got older, because years back, well, I had a family, I had my job, and you get at least a little bit relief. When you're retired, you can think that, you have a lot longer to think about these things, and you just have to learn to live your life with it, the best you can.
Maura Govans has spent almost 5 decades desperately hoping for justice for her sister and her 3-year-old son Andrew after they disappeared on the 12th of November 1976. Yesterday, Rini's lover William McDowell was found guilty of their murders.
He's lived his life. Rini never got to live hers, and Andrew never even started his life. So, he's lived his life, but I hope he lives for quite a number of years, so that he's in prison for a number of years.
McDowell was sentenced to spend 30 years in prison before being eligible for parole. When the verdict came, relief for Morag and her family.
We've waited a long time for it, and to be honest, I never really thought I would hear the guilty verdict. So I just was delighted to get justice for Rini and Andrew. Really, that's the most important thing, really. And I'm just so happy.
For 46 years, Rini's family waited for justice, worried it would never come. For the other families across Scotland in similar circumstances, maybe now some hope.
You have one wish now, don't you?
Yes, I want them to tell me where Rini and Andrew's remains. I want to tell them where are, so that we can lay them to rest where we want them to be.
Nicola McCally, STV News.
Glasgow Clan have suspended their chief executive and head coach after the ice hockey team attempted to sign a player facing an alleged rape charge. Clan announced the signing of Lasse Uusituvara last night, but just 3 hours later said the Finnish player would no longer be joining. Well, our reporter Joanne Bonner joins us from the newsroom. Joanne.
Well, this all began last night when the Clan announced on their social media that they'd signed the Finnish defenceman. But they were quickly hit by a backlash from fans when they found out that Lasse Uusituvara had been arrested and charged with rape in 2013 while he was a student at the University of Alabama. The player then allegedly fled the USA, returning to his homeland. Since then, Uusituvara has played for several ice hockey teams across Europe, and this latest move would have brought him to Glasgow. Announcing it, the club posted an interview with the player where he was asked about the charge.
You know, you were cleared of any charges, let's be absolutely clear on that. But being mindful I'm about to do that very thing, is it something that you have to prepare for when moving to a new club, the fact that you might need to speak about it?
Yeah, it's definitely something that me and my agent always either ourselves bring it up or it comes up, but it's something that I prefer to tell about. So because obviously it's out there and you can easily find the headlines about it.
Well, you heard them say there that he was cleared of charges, but at the time, prosecutors said they would not extradite him, but if he returned to America, charges would be brought against him. That interview has now been taken down and Uusituvara's move to the Clan is off. This morning, the club chairman Neil Black put out a statement saying he was made aware of a major situation for the first time last night, which merits further investigation, and that this has led to the immediate suspension of the chief executive and the head coach. Well, the Clan are in action in the Challenge Cup against Belfast Giants tonight. With Stephen Dixon in charge of the team, it's likely the fans will make their feelings known at Braehead.
OK, Joanne, many thanks for that. Look at other stories across Scotland now, and 5 people have tested positive for E. coli in South Lanarkshire. Health officials say 4 of those infected attend a nursery in Biggar, while the 5th has close links to one of the other cases.
ScotRail is warning train passengers to expect significant disruption tomorrow when Network Rail workers go on strike. More than 40,000 RMT members are due to take to picket lines across the UK in their ongoing pay dispute.
David Goodwillie has been released by Raith Rovers 8 months after the forward's controversial move from Clyde. The 33-year-old, who was ruled a rapist in a civil case, did not play a match for the Starks Park side. Now, this week saw production end at the McVitie's factory in Glasgow, bringing to a close almost a century of biscuit making at the site. Despite a lengthy campaign to retain jobs, the firm's Turkish owners ultimately decided to shut its doors to protect the long-term future of the business.
Almost 500 people worked at the factory, which has been a major employer in the community for generations. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie has been speaking to some of those affected by the closure.
The end of line. That's when the end of product comes out the end of line.
The finishing product at the end of line.
You get the end of line here.
At Paul's allotment, lasting reminders of his near 40 years working at McVitie's. He and William are among those made redundant this week.
The end of line
the
for
end
the
of
factory.
line for the factory. That's what's kind of thing here.
It
was sad, honestly. It was, because it's 3.5 years and just going closing down. You know, it's really sad.
How tough is that for you then to walk out for the final time, having been there so long?
To get another job now, to look at something just strange. Probably no sunk in yet, you know, but maybe a week or two will sink in. But hope I get a job, hope I get something out there.
I don't think there's many companies had what they had in there. It's fantastic. If MD, they would help you, they do a good turn before a bad turn, and it's really reassuring. More so at this time. I'm worried about the community where there's a lot of young people leaving school that can get skills in there. That is gone now.
They've been making biscuits at this site for almost a century. Generations of families have worked here since it opened in 1925 as part of McFarlane and Lang's Victoria Biscuit Works. At one point, it employed more than 1,300 workers. Staff were first told of the move to close the site in May last year. An action group put forward alternatives to retain the skilled jobs. But Pladis were not for persuading.
We still, at this moment in time, don't have any legacy for this site. We don't know what the plans are to do with this site once McVitie's Pladis completely move out.
So what will the closure of this factory mean for this area?
We've classed it as economic vandalism. It's going to have a massive impact. I mean, you would be hard pushed to find someone in the east end of Glasgow that doesn't know someone that's worked here or has a family member or worked here themselves.
The impact of the closure goes beyond the factory gates.
I think it will have an impact on quite a lot of the small businesses around here. They were very loyal. They would order from us like every day. We would get like a lot of the regular ones coming up for their lunch every day, or we would get orders placed. There would be sometimes that I would like deliver breakfast down to them, like at the weekend and stuff, like large orders.
A fixture in this community for almost 100 years. The future of this historic site remains uncertain. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
A Baton relay to mark the countdown to COP27 kicked off in Glasgow this morning. The city hosted the climate conference last year, and children from Sunnyside Primary set the Baton off on its journey, where it'll travel over 3,000 miles to Egypt. It's expected to arrive at Sharm el-Sheikh in late October in time for this year's climate summit.
It was really exciting as well. I was kind of nervous at the start, but I guess I kind of got over that.
Within the baton itself, most importantly, is a message that has been created by the young people. So there's a message in English and Arabic that they're reading out today, sealing in this baton, and then we'll carry the baton all the way to Egypt, where another school in Sharm el-Sheikh will open up the message and read that to world leaders.
Scotland's Gambian community are gathering this weekend for their first cultural event since before the pandemic. The Gambians in Scotland Community Association are hosting a string of events centred around the theme of integration. They hope the festivities will bring people from diverse communities in Scotland together to share in Gambian culture.
What we intend to do is to bring the Gambian culture and showcase it into Scottish society. We will help our members to integrate within the Scottish community, because where you are, that's where you belong.
Now Raman's here with all the sport.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. John Souttar has suffered another injury setback. The Rangers defender has undergone ankle surgery, which will rule him out of action until after the World Cup. Meanwhile, Ange Postecoglou insists he won't shy away from making wholesale changes to his Celtic team again. That's despite seeing his side lose to St Mirren after rotating his squad. Signed from Hearts in the summer, John Souttar has played just over an hour of football this season, and now the defender will spend more time on the sidelines. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has revealed the defender has undergone surgery to address a persistent ankle injury.
He has problems, we had before. Still, he brought the problem with him when he changed teams, and we needed to operate him again. So he feels much better now. It's always difficult to play with pain.
Tom Lawrence will miss the trip to Tynecastle after failing to recover from a knee injury. With the game kicking off at lunchtime, the Ibrox side have the chance to go top with a win.
We know if we go on a consistent run and we start putting a good run of performances together, it'll take us to where we want to be. And tomorrow's just another step to trying to do that.
At Celtic, Ange Postecoglou is preparing his players for the visit of Motherwell. His side lost 2-0 to St Mirren in the last league outing. That after the Parkhead boss made 6 changes to his starting 11. Despite the defeat, this won't deter Postecoglou from making numerous changes again.
Every decision we make will be around what team we think will be able to best perform on the day. So if that means making a number of changes, we make a number of changes. If not, we don't. I mean, again, if you use a result of a game as a backdrop to question everything you do, then, mate, you'll go nuts in this game.
If we win 9-0, if we lose 2-0, we're still going to reflect on the game and look at what we can do better. And I think there was obviously lots of things we could have done better. But we've got a chance tomorrow to react.
Cameron Carter-Vickers, Georgios Giacomakis and Carl Starfelt will miss tomorrow's match due to injury. St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson has expressed his frustration over Alex Greaves' late return from international duty. The attacker played for New Zealand against Australia on Sunday, while teammates Ryan Strain and Keanu Bacchus, who featured for the Socceroos, reported for training earlier this week. Greaves didn't return until today.
Very frustrating. The game was on Sunday and the team that played against the boys arrived back and trained on the Wednesday. So very, very frustrating. Obviously we've got a couple of injuries as well. Eamon Brophy has had a knock. Curtis Meehan's had a knock. So we're sort of a little bit light in the front areas at the moment. So we'll assess both those boys tomorrow and hope that they're available. But it obviously makes it more paramount that Alex hasn't been here to train all week.
Kilmarnock manager Derek McInnes admits it will be an emotional return to Aberdeen tomorrow, but it's one he's relishing. McInnes goes back to Pittodrie for the first time since his 8-year spell as Don's boss came to an end 18 months ago. Killie are second bottom of the Premiership, Aberdeen are 7th.
I appreciate the time I was there, 8 years, almost 400 games as a manager. It was a big part of my life. I had a brilliant time there, and for the vast majority of the time it was so enjoyable. But I'm going as Kilmarnock manager, it's business, we're going to try and get a result. But in answer to your question, really looking forward to the game.
So, Kilmarnock head to Pittodrie. There are all the weekend's Premiership games. Hearts against Rangers is a 12:30 kick-off at Tynecastle. Motherwell boss Stevie Hamill says his team need to be clinical if they get opportunities at Celtic Park. Elsewhere, it's St Mirren against Livingston. Dundee United host St Johnstone, while Hibs take on Ross County. Now, Ali Price will make his first start for Glasgow Warriors this season when they face Ospreys tomorrow. He is one of 5 changes to the starting 15, which defeated Cardiff last weekend. With Kyle Steyn rested for the trip, Price will captain the side. Well, that, folks, is all your sports tonight. Have a great weekend. See you again next week.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Well, let's look at that weather forecast. Here's Sean.
The outlook for the day is calm and settled. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, that really was a wee taste of autumn earlier on, wasn't it? Those gusty winds, plenty of rain around, a very yucky start to the day. But that rain is now in the North Sea. We're now left behind with blustery showers, which are going to continue through much of tomorrow as well. The best of the weekend weather on Sunday as pressure starts to build. Temperature-wise, for most of us, we should stay in double figures tonight because we will see a good scattering of showers, and that breeze also still around as well, and particularly windy through tomorrow, especially along the west coast and across the Hebrides. Blustery winds driving in, lots of showers, some of those heavy and thundery, and they will be pushing all the way towards the east of the country, but later on the day the showers easing a bit from the east but still staying pretty frequent in the west. So let's have a look at what's in store. I'm going to take you tonight from Islay towards Stirling. And tomorrow, well, we've got lots of showers. Jura, Islay, Colonsay, there we are passing Gea, the Kintyre Peninsula and across Butte. Those showers remaining frequent through the day, some heavy and pushing all the way in towards Lanarkshire as well. But as we head into Stirlingshire, hopefully, probably from about 4 or 5 o'clock onwards, it should become largely dry and bright here. But lots of showers around nonetheless tomorrow, but especially frequent and especially cool in the west with that breeze around through tomorrow, especially across the Hebrides. Then on Sunday, well, the pressure starts to build, so the winds will be a bit quieter and dry and bright weather for most of us. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, Eurovision fever is continuing across Glasgow. Officials from the song contest have arrived in the city for a site visit before making their final decision.
Scotland's biggest city is competing against Liverpool to be the contest's next host. Polly Bartlett can shine a light on why Eurovision's making its mind up about Glasgow.
I'm a Glasgow is no stranger to pulling out all the stops for a party. And for Eurovision, it's no different.
Glaswegians are so friendly and there's so much personality in this city. They've got all the great venues for it as well. And it's just, we'll show everyone a good time.
I just think the culture of Glasgow kind of brings everything together for events like this.
Today, Eurovision officials arrived in the city for their last site visit before they make their final decision. Superfans Noel and Aaron hope they give Glasgow 12 points.
Well, Glasgow's so multicultural, and it's just a melting pot of different people and different cultures, and that's what Eurovision is.
It's got a quite big sploes in the LGBT community. It's got a huge kind of part, and a huge part of the fan base really is. And I think a lot of people felt quite included there. There was this really inclusive family. You get people who take it quite casual and just like a party. Then you get people who are dressed up in full-on costumes. They're dressed as ABBA or Conchita, or they'll be painted in their flag from head to toe.
If the Eurovision team go boom, bang-a-bang for Glasgow, this would be the concert venue.
The Hydro has consistently been ranked in the top 10 venues globally, and with its Colosseum-style seating, is actually the only arena in Europe purpose-built for live entertainment.
It will be a huge production. Logistically, it's a challenge for any venue, but I think that's where the Hydro, being a really modern, very easy to use venue from a production point of view, will help facilitate the quick turnarounds that are required between artists, acts, etc. Glasgow audiences are legendary around the world for being so enthusiastic, and Glasgow loves a party.
Clearly, excitement is building throughout the city, and in 2 weeks' time, we'll know if it's Glasgow or Liverpool calling. Polly Bartlett, STV News, Glasgow.
And some more music to end tonight's programme. And what's on Scotland at 7, I've been speaking to Craig and Charlie Reid, aka the Proclaimers, who are celebrating a milestone birthday, as well as nearly 40 years in the music business. It's probably because your music seems to feature everywhere. You've been in Shrek, you've been in other
a lot
films.
of things, and we've been around a long time. Yeah. So that, I think if you've got 2 or 3 songs that enter the public consciousness, parents' music taste indoctrinates it. Hopefully a lot of them are going to rebel against it, but some of them take it in, and it goes into that kind of subconscious and comes out later on.
And it's continued on, and it's taken on a life of its own. It keeps us on the road, and it keeps people coming to the gig.
The Barabat-Baz, however many there are, right?
What happens is the more enthusiastic the audience, sometimes the more drunk, they always come in with it too early. Scots audiences always do.
Well, looks like they're having a good weekend. Hope you do too. Good night.
Bye-bye.